Hello, and thank you for joining us on Between Two Barbells podcast. We have a special guest on our podcast today, and we'll get into that a little bit. Just as a reminder, my name is Tatum McCann. I'm an Olympic lifter and strength coach. Been doing this for over 10 years now, and love to yap about it. We'll go ahead and let Alex introduce himself next.
I'm Alex. I am a strongman coach, and I am also a competitive 90 kilo strongman athlete. Used to be an 80.
My name is Jeremiah, and I've been doing strongman for close to 5 years now, and just came back from nationals. Yay!
Yay.
Yay, awesome. Alrighty. So, because we like to start off on a negative note, we're going to go through some more gym pet peeves today, because this is just where we seem to be starting off every day. So,
It's a
Jeremiah, why
running
don't
theme. It's a weekly theme. It's great.
you, we like to start off with a negative note. What can I say? Jeremiah, I'm going to have you open up. Gym pet peeves, what's your favorite or least
Oh
favorite?
man, gotta put me on the spot here. Okay,
Welcome.
I'm gonna start off with a hot take, and um, I'm gonna say people doing circuit training with way too many events in the circuit in a busy gym
Valid.
Yeah,
and reserving like six pieces of equipment. That's
yeah,
my hot take for today.
yeah. We did talk about that last week,
Yeah.
I
right?
didn't
Wasn't
watch
that?
last week's yet.
Wow, what a
Wow.
great supporter of ours. But yeah, we touched on it last week. It was basically, putting each other in that awkward position where the person hogging the machines could be considered a dick, and then the person coming up like, "Hey, can I use this machine?" And then the guy that's using it is just like, "No." And then we got into it about just building a community.
Yeah,
So, building a community by just incorporating people into your workout, letting them work in. It's just a simple weight change back and forth and all that, right?
Facts. Yeah. People can be annoying, but also we're supposed to like be friends with them.
respect.
Respect. All right, Alex, I know you have a fresh pet peeve for the week.
Oh
Get
my
it? What's the
gosh.
hot take?
I saw this video on the Instagrams um, where all the magical stuff in the gym happens, apparently. And I saw a guy doing clean and press with poor poor form, using calibrated steel kilo plates instead of bumpers, and I'm pretty sure it was either a power bar or possibly even a deadlift bar. So my gym pet peeve of the week is people not using equipment for what it's intended for. Because I have also seen this firsthand at Metroflex, where I look over to the other side of the gym, which is the powerlifting section, and someone is doing power cleans and doing shoulder pressing with metal plates on a deadlift platform.
You just jogged my memory.
It really grinds my gears, man.
It jogged your memory? What
Yeah.
happened?
Uh, People bench pressing with a deadlift bar so that they can slam it into their chest harder and get extra whip at the bottom. What the? Why? What are you
Okay,
doing?
okay. I've never done that, but like it makes your numbers go up.
Okay, I've also joked around for those that don't know, Cerberus Strength, plug. Hopefully, they sponsor us one day. Uh, came out with a Kratos bar. It's a 10-foot long deadlift bar. It is the longest bar I've ever lifted with. We have joked around because we now have one about doing snatches with it.
No.
We but joked around.
Okay.
Obviously, common sense then takes over and is like, we're not going to do that because that's not what this bar is intended for. I believe the great sport of strongman has done a few pressing events with it, but its main purpose is deadlifts.
All
But
right, it's my time to be devil's advocate here. I have, as a female weightlifter, dropped into some gyms that do not have any appropriate bars for any kind of weightlifting movements. So I have had to do like clean work with like a Texas bar, which sucks, to be very clear. And I have done clean work with a deadlift bar. I will say, between those two, the deadlift bar was definitely better. Neither of those were a good option,
Well,
but I
yeah.
have done cleans with the deadlift bar. But it's not my fault. They didn't have any other, they didn't have a single, even multi purpose, any bar. It
Okay,
was just
then
those two.
then let's get into this. Did you use steel calibrated plates?
No, there were bumpers there.
Okay.
I have never in my life weightlifted with metal plates, except for like change plates, obviously.
And like that just irks me. Like not the bar situation because obviously at the end of the day you got to do what you got to do, and if you get yelled at, you're just facing the consequences of your actions. Um, but it's like using calibrated kilo plates to put them overhead and then dropping the bar. I mean, even dropping an empty barbell could be a gym pet peeve if you want to get into that.
I think we're running into like there's this sliding scale of wrong when it comes to pet peeve movements, where it's like, okay, if you go in eyes open, using a deadlift bar for an Oli movement is not that bad. You're not damaging anything. It's just incorrect, but like you're not gonna hurt yourself unless if you know what you're doing. But using calibrated kilo plates is just flat out wrong.
Right. It's just it's wrong because at the end of the day, those plates are a lot more expensive than bumpers. If not, like if you look at competition plates back and forth, they probably do come out roughly the same for a set, or there's a very minor difference. But like, leave it better than you found it is what I always try to tell you guys as my athletes. It's like I yelled at one of our newer athletes because she dropped a trap bar from the hip and it was empty. And I go, don't ever do that again. And then she goes, why? And I go, did you buy it? And she's like, no, I didn't buy it. Of course I didn't buy it. I go, well, you're acting like you bought it. And you just treat other people's equipment with respect. You know, that's how we keep
Yeah.
things lasting longer. That's how we keep bars good, plates good. It's like I can't tell you how many times I've been to a weightlifting gym and I've gotten yelled at for dropping yellows or 15-kilo plates.
You don't
Yeah.
drop
Yellows.
greens. By and large, the generally agreed upon rule is you don't drop greens. You don't drop your 10 kilo plates. Yellows, I have never experienced people being weird about that. Apparently you have. But don't drop the greens is a pretty common rule because those plates break. They're weightlifting plates. Yes, they are meant to be dropped alongside other things, but they're just thinner. They can't take it as much. So even the bougie Legos that we bought for Metroflex,
Hmm.
those greens have been largely trashed. I mean, I haven't seen them in a hot minute because I don't live there anymore. But even when I was leaving, they were cracked. And that's because you have these big dudes who are strong enough to lower your bar with just greens on it, just repetitively dropping their warm up weights. You're gonna ruin stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I will say, um, slamming or not controlling weights in situations where you definitely could, even if you think the equipment can handle it. I've seen, man, I've seen actual trap bars break and have welds fail because they were
Hmm.
being used too roughly with too much weight.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen farmer handles break. I've seen, crazy stuff. And it's like, my thing is that if you are, if you're working with a high percentage with the greens, I'll touch on that first and you have to bail from a snatch or a jerk or whatever, sure, you're simply not there yet. But you get someone like me who is well into the 200s with their overhead and should be more than capable of lowering yellows. If someone like me or Jeremiah or you, Tatum, of our caliber of strength goes and just slams the greens on the ground, that's where I have the issue because I know you're strong enough to lower these weights down and just be safe and be courteous. What another thing that I don't get is people doing like a heavy press or something like that and they don't move far enough out of the rack where they get the lift, great lift. You're putting massive weight overhead, putting massive weight in anything, any lift is a feat in its own. But then you go and slam it, and the weight just drops on the rack, and then it shoots forward, and it's like that's how you get chips in the bumper plates. It's like these people just don't understand etiquette and keeping equipment nice because at the end of the day, they didn't buy it, and it's not equipment's not just going to magically show up once stuff gets replaced. Like I understand some gyms are in a much better position financially to where they could have that, where someone goes up to the owner and they're like, "Hey, we're running out of 10-kilo plates. Okay, I'll have some in by the end of the month." But there's other gyms that are out there that's like, "Hey, I put my heart and soul into this place to create a great environment for you to come in and better yourself. All I ask is that you treat my equipment with respect." And then most of the time, those are the gyms where the equipment gets disrespected the most. Like what's happening at Metroflex right now. Um, People are slamming dumbbells, people are slamming bars, people are doing rack pulls with a deadlift bar at 18 inches instead of going off blocks or going into a squat rack, and then they're slamming it down, and then that's how we got a Texas deadlift bar bent. It's just this massive amount of money is being lost because of people being stupid in the gym.
With strongman equipment specifically, a lot of the time that equipment is not replaceable. Like I can think off the top of my head of a half a dozen pieces of equipment that we have in our gym, and if they break, you either repair them or you don't have them anymore because they are either prohibitively expensive or that nobody produces them anymore.
For sure. I like to think Strawman has a few best friends outside the sport, and that's the Home Depot guy that gets in the deal on sand and the fabricator that fixes all the equipment. So,
I mean, we've replaced on our farmers and yoke, we've replaced the feet. We've had new feet welded on, I think
mhm.
3 times since I started. It's like three times in 4 or 5 years. And that's because if you don't do that, you just don't have that equipment anymore.
Exactly. And, the training hall, just to throw them in here, has done a wonderful job hosting competitions. They're going into 805 Strongest Man for their 10th year now. And, getting into the wear and tear that puts on your equipment because you get so many different athletes at so many different levels that, they slide the yoke, they drop it, they tip it over. Just you never know what could happen at these competitions. And so you're kind of putting equipment at risk by hosting these comps, kind of hoping that you put forth a set of rules like control the log to your chest or something like that to help save the equipment. But at the end of the day, it's like we went to regionals this year. A guy missed the crash pad on a circus dumbbell the first time and it got bent. It
Yeah,
was a Mike Bartos circus dumbbell, a very expensive dumbbell.
the risk. I make sure if I'm going to drop a trap bar, I cushion it with the top of my foot.
Yeah,
Fun memories.
yeah, I remember that. But yeah, I got a lot of messages from that point.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. See, again, I think Alex, you touched on this. If there's like a limitation in ability, like you're working close to your max and that's where like greens are, even if it's above like 70%, I totally get it. Like drop them, it's fine. Even empty bars. I've had athletes, and I myself have on very rare occasions, but I have dropped an empty bar because I legitimately like bailed out of the snatch. Like something went wrong and I was like, all right, it's me or the barbell. And like it happens. I admittedly have purchased my own bar as well as a significant amount of equipment for Metroflex. So watching people be disrespectful to the equipment that I paid for and donated to the gym has been so irksome because like I built those platforms. I bought half of those barbells. I bought most of those plates. Like that is money out of my pocket that I spent because I wanted us to have a good weightlifting community. And then to have weightlifters come in after all of that was built and just like destroy my stuff. Oh, I was so irritated so frequently to the point that I had to just like, all right, I'm not lifting with you guys anymore. You're gonna break my
Exactly.
stuff. I know you're gonna break my stuff. I can't do it. Like I've tried to have respectful conversations about this. It led to tension. I'm gonna go with tension. And
Okay.
like I can't do it. But like again, sometimes stuff happens. I've had big dudes who like were going for something empty barbell, like balance wasn't there and they had to bail. And like it happens.
Mhm.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
But it's not like a regular thing.
It is like the more deliberate getting ready for a big Friday max out session, and then you like if you dropped an empty barbell for your hip, I am pissed. Like I'll be honest, that is like the one thing that I will let ruin my day is a barbell being dropped from the hip.
No, but the
Um,
Chinese weightlifting team does it.
yeah, you're not the Chinese weightlifting team, dude. You qualified for AO finals. Congratulations.
You're not Lee Diane. Like, chill.
Yeah. Just at the end of the day, you might think that you're strong and you might be strong for the people that you train around with, but you're still not that guy. And it's like I even got on another case. Someone was using our small log. I didn't purchase the log, but I have athletes that need that log for upcoming comps and preps and off-season work and stuff like that. And I saw this particular athlete drop it from overhead onto safety bar racks out from the rig. And there was no cushion, no nothing, just straight overhead slam. And that caught my attention. And then I go up to the coach and I go, hey, why don't let her do that? Because we have one of those. I didn't really get into it because he agreed that that shouldn't have happened and he's going to actively work on fixing it. Um, But it's like thinking about it, we have one of those and we have so many different athletes that need it. And it's like if someone comes in and they go, hey, Alex, I want to get into Strongman. Cool. I have this 10-inch log that weighs 70 pounds where if you could put a plate over your head, you could lift that log. And then that's the teaching log. And it's like if that goes away, I lose that. I
Yeah.
lose that ability to teach people.
I purchased for the training hall recently, a little earlier this year, a 12-inch log that weighs 95 pounds. When previously the lightest one that we had was a 12-inch log that weighed 180 pounds, and was impossible to warm up on. So you had to warm up on a smaller log, and that enabled a lot of people at my gym to have the option to train log lighter and get better at technique and better at that size of log. And one of the stipulations I had for leaving that log at the gym was that it's kept inside. It's always used with pads. It's always used with the correct size plates. And I put notes on little pieces of tape on the log to that effect. And people have been fantastic with treating it right. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that the people that are using it respect the fact that that log wasn't there before and it could not be there again.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I've had a couple sandbags rip on me. I've had one get thrown away without me knowing, because it was just leaving a puff of smoke wherever it went, um, from getting dropped. And hearing that, like stuff that I paid for out of my own pocket got thrown away without first consulting me, made me want to take both my logs, all the sandbags that I got, and whatever other equipment that I've supplied to that gym and just take it away because I feel like that's not right.
Yeah. To touch on Jeremiah's point, I think that like when we first got new weightlifting equipment, and even like my women's bar was the first women's bar at Metroflex. Like they didn't have other women's bars. There were no Bella bars there at the time. Like I bought my personal bar because there weren't any women's bars, and I was like, all right. And I took it home with me every day. I loaded it into my 1997 Toyota RAV4 when I was in high school and just like slid it up through the trunk. And I brought it home with me and I brought it to school. And then I brought it from school to the gym and I unloaded it and carried it inside every single day until eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to leave it, but I'm going to tuck it away. And then it became like, okay, I'm gonna leave it, but I'm gonna put it like I had a piece of pink tape around either like the end of either collar that said like personal bar do not use.
Hmm.
By and large, not an issue. One, because there weren't very many women at the gym, so like they weren't a lot of people to use it in the first place. Two occasions I had an issue. One of which was there was a photo shoot there and this girl had like a metal handle, like one of the little V handles that you use for like T-bar rows essentially, on the knurling of my bar. My bar has really sharp knurling for a reason. That is a grippy bar. I love it. I walked in and I saw that, and she was doing like, it was like two 45-pound like bumper plates on one side of it, and she was like pretending to do like a T-bar or like a landmine row, and it was like resting on a cement block on the other side, and I was like, oh my God, what are you? First of all, incorrect. Just everything about this is wrong. And second of all, that's my bar. That's not a gym bar. That's not like for you guys to use. It was still tucked away at that point. They went into the front of the gym, underneath all of the chairs in the lobby, and pulled out that bar because it was the shiniest one. I know it's the shiniest one. I'm the one who cleans it. It's my freaking bar. And I was livid. And 16-year-old Tatum, walks up to the guy running this photo shoot, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know you guys are in the middle of something. That's my personal barbell, and you guys are gonna break it. And he was like, if we break it, we'll buy you a new one. And I was like, all right. He's like, we have 10 minutes left. I was like, fine. You know what? Fine. And like, it was fine. My knurling was like a little bit softer on one side, and every time I noticed that, which like I don't go collar to collar anyway, it's not knurling that I ever have to use. But that irritates me to this day. The only other time is I had a dude using my bar for like, I don't even remember what he was doing. I think it was like overhead press or something, but he was using my bar. And I was like, hey, just so you know, one, that's my personal barbell. And two, that's a women's bar. So if you think you're lifting 135 right now, incorrect. That's 123 pounds.
Mhm.
And he was like, no, it's not. And I was like, you see that thing on the side of the barbell that says 15 kg? That's not 45 pounds, big dog. And he just got like super defensive, got like mad at me. And I was like, I mean, I tried to approach this well. It's
It's
my
because it
bar. I could just go get the giant tattoo faced dude, Alex, who worked in the front of the gym at the time, and be like, he'll get it for me. Like, I'm kind of a princess at this gym. I'm a teenager, and this is my stuff. They'll
Yeah.
fight you.
it just felt big in his hands.
I'm like, this is such a shush. You can tell. I think that like even if you don't know what you're doing, you can feel the difference between a women's bar and a men's bar. Like there's a weight difference, there's a size difference, there's a length difference. I can spot a women's bar across a gym without like a single issue. Like you can see that. Oh yeah, that one's a women's bar. How do you not notice? And why are you going to argue with me and say that it's a men's bar when it's like very clearly not?
Confidently wrong.
The audacity.
Wrong, but with feeling. Yeah. I think a lot of it just comes down to the best way that I've heard it phrased is if you're an owner, if you have a gym, if you're in that position where other people are using equipment, is just, you know, treat it like you're a guest in my house. And if you're in someone else's gym, act like you're a guest in their house. You wouldn't go rifling through someone's drawers to pull out equipment that they don't want you to use, and vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of sad when they have to put signs up in the gym about putting plates back, about respecting equipment, because that just kind of shows you what they're dealing with on the daily basis. And it's like, if you break a piece of equipment, then you're just causing harm to other people because then they can't use that piece of equipment. It's like we had a new row machine at the gym. It was there for a whole 2 days before it got broken because people just slammed weights onto it, slammed the attachment on. It was on like the sliding angle. So it was like a Smith machine type setup, but you just sit on the bench that's there. It's a great machine. But it just sucks that it didn't even last a week. And then the weld broke.
Yeah, I mean, respect is great, but understanding is necessary too. If you respect the equipment, but you don't understand how to use it, that's equally bad. Coaching, correct training, and having the curiosity to learn too, because a lot of people they use equipment that they don't understand, but they don't care to learn how.
Yeah. I think I got to see more of people who like were willing to. When I was working the front desk at the gym, I had a number of people, and it was almost always women. I will say this, not to be that guy, but it was almost exclusively women who would come up and be like, "Hey, this thing looks really cool, and I've seen other people use it, but can you walk me through this? Because I'm not confident in my ability to do this, and I don't want to hurt myself or break something." And I was like, absolutely. And if I didn't know what it was because I don't use machines, I would be like, you know who does know how to use this? That guy. And then I would make someone come over and be like, explain this to both of us, please, and thank you. Like, I got no issue with that. I think that when you come into it with an ego, just like any form of weight training, really, when you come into it with an ego, you're gonna end up looking like an idiot.
I've always said that this is one of my favorite things about working out at a proper training gym versus a commercial gym, which is that you can't have an ego when you're around incredibly strong, experienced people. You just have to recognize that there are people out there who will rep 800 pounds on a squat. And however good you're feeling about your squat that day, there's a higher mountain just around the corner.
Yeah, yeah,
Keeps the ego out of it, which is amazing.
yeah. I definitely think I know what next week's pet peeve is going to be.
Yes, we'll get into that next week. I want to get a little bit more into Jeremiah, our special guest for today.
I
Is that you've been competing strongman for 5 years. I know you've also done some good comps in powerlifting and all of that with Alex as your coach. Kind of walk us through a little bit of your like background in athletics, where you specialize, any stories. Just dive into who you are.
Okay, so I'm gonna back up kind of well before weightlifting, just for some context. Um, so to start off, I was born. After that, no, not on too much of a tangent though, but I was into athletics to some degree very early on. I'm very fortunate that I come from an athletic family. My sister was a competitive. Oh, hello! I've got a friendly spider on my hat. Perks of sitting outside. Uh, no, I came from a very athletic family. I mean, my father was a competitive power lifter, actually held a California state bench press record for some time. And my sister was a competitive gymnast. My mom is a ballet dancer. So I'm very fortunate that I come from a supportive athletic background. Growing up, I did half a dozen different sports and never really fell in love with any of them, but enjoyed them. In high school was the first time when I really connected with a sport, and that was rock climbing. So I got into rock climbing and pretty quickly was just doing it all the time. Couldn't stay away from it. I was training 5 days a week, which in high school was a lot. And I ended up, that was my first job, was I was teaching kids climbing at a climbing gym. So, cut to college, and I didn't have easy access to a climbing gym. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lift weights. And I was really bad at it. And it was a lot of fun, even being bad at it. So I said, you know what? If it's fun being bad at it, it'd be a lot more fun to be good at it. And right around that time, a couple years into weightlifting, I've been doing some regular gym lifting. Um, COVID happened. And so I all the gyms shut down. I was basically sidelined to hiking and not a lot else. And so I lost a ton of weight because I wasn't in the gym and I wasn't lifting. I wasn't doing really any kind of strength sports. So cut to I think it was early 2021. This was when the journey here kind of started. I was back at a commercial gym, but I said, you know what? I'm tired of not knowing what I'm doing. I want to actually lift well and have better technique. So I paid for some coaching, I paid for some training, and through my trainer at the time, I found the gym that I go to now, which is the training hall, which has all of the strongman equipment and all the fun toys that we get to play with. And I remember walking in there and going, wow, all of this looks really fun. And it turns out that was the rest was history. And I did my first competition, I think about 4 or 5 months after starting at that gym. I was 12 pounds underweight for the lightest weight class, which was a blast.
Hmm.
Absolutely wrecked myself in the first event and suffered for the rest of that competition and had a blast doing it. And I think it was a few months after that, but pretty shortly after that competition, that I signed on with Alex as my coach. So I've been an athlete under that team, Primal, shout out, for uh, over 4 years now, and that's seen me through powerlifting, a couple of powerlifting competitions. We went and did APF nationals in 2023, four. It's been a while,
It's been
and
a long time.
it's been a while, and it's been a fun journey. I've done a bunch of different strongman competitions over that time, bunch of different um, powerlifting and different things. And through the whole thing, I think the thing that kind of kept me from, burning out or losing my love for the sport, which happens sometimes with athletes, is just the fact that strongman is such a fantastic sport with so much variation in events that you're always going to have something new to work on, and you're always going to have something that you can train that you haven't really done that before, or you haven't done it that way before. And there's a lot of really great progression that happens with that, as long as you focus on technique and form and creating a good foundation to then do new events from, which I think has been the biggest thing. I'm very fortunate. I've not had any serious injuries through my time training, which a lot of that I do credit to correct programming, which is, again, shout out Primal. So it's been a blast. But I'll stop talking now. I think that
Yeah,
about it.
it's definitely been quite a journey watching you because I did compete against you at that first 805s that you did. To then taking you on as an athlete, coaching you up, going to, your first regionals, seeing your first podium, then your second podium, and then now, seeing you get your first comp win, and then even placing very well above expectations at nationals on the biggest stage. It has been quite a pleasure watching you grow in this sport and then also doing all these little side quests. I mean, you've done powerlifting nationals where you just dominated your total again and again and again. And then not even you didn't mention this, but going to Olympia and competing for the United States in Moss wrestling. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you did do that, and it that's a whole sport in itself where yeah, there is some carryover to strongman, but you know, you kind of take these tasks and look for the ins and outs of how do I get better, and then also I think we kind of get into the coach and athlete bond that we have, because there have been many nights, Tatum, where we have been on the phone for pretty close to 2+ hours on average. Not only talking shop, but just where do we want to go with the program and this and that. And you also touched on that there's events again that you haven't done. I know I'm still checking off events. One event that I really want to do is Fingal Fingers, but it's just so hard to get the equipment to do. But yeah,
As someone who's not a strongman, what is that?
Fingal Fingers, it's a giant tube that you load weight in and you got to flip it over on a pendulum, just like that.
Imagine standing up and flipping a telephone pole end over end if it's anchored on one end.
It's really cool. You should try it sometime. Um, but I guess we kind of start off. What was your welcome to Strawman moment? That's what I want to know.
Oh man, there's a very specific moment that I'm thinking of, and as
Mhm.
soon as I say it, I think you're gonna know. It was the first event at my first competition. So at 805s, the first event of the entire meet was a yoke out and back. And at this point, I'd been training for strongman for a few months. I knew the events. I had done the events. Hadn't really hit, too close to comp weight on that event, but I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have fun. And the wonderful thing about the yoke event, for those who don't know, is in that format, they give you an out and back. So you go about 50 feet out with this kind of an H shaped frame on your back. And you walk it about 50 feet out, you put it down, you turn around, you come back, and it's how quickly can you do that? And I
Hmm.
think the fastest athletes at that meet, Alex and one of our other friends, both finished in, I don't know, 13, 15, 18 seconds, somewhere around there. I finished in 57 seconds. I had to now they allow you to drop it and pick it back up again. So if you stop, you're not allowed to slide it, but you can regroup and continue. And I regrouped and continued 6 times before finishing, but I did finish.
You did finish indeed.
And in
I
hindsight,
remember.
it was a terrible decision, but
Yep.
it was the first event or the first time when I really pushed myself to the absolute breaking point to complete an event. And I finished, turned around, and went, yeah, I'm hooked. I want more of that. Give me more of that.
Hmm. Yeah, Strongman is definitely one of those sports where you're very intimidated by the implements when you first watch it most of the time. But the second you get underneath it and the second you start getting good at it and even step onto the competition floor, that's when you get hooked. Just the roar of people that want you to do your best and finish the event, having to grind through events just to complete them. And it's like, I'm sure now, like, yes, that was your welcome to Strawman moment, but you look back at that and you're just like, wow, I really struggled with I think it was like a 410-pound yoke, something like that.
It was a 460 yoke, and I think at this point the heaviest yoke I've walked was somewhere in the low 600s. And it changes your perspective of strength and weight to see people your size that don't struggle with weight that you struggle with, or seeing yourself. Mr. Spider was coming back. Seeing yourself, outperform and grow from where you used to be to where you are now is a fantastic feeling.
Hmm. And then I guess now switching over to the growth as an athlete.
Well, I've got a fun thing as far as growth. If you want a minute to think, um,
Yeah.
one of the things that jumped out at me the most when it comes to strongman and growing as an athlete is kind of the two-part thing of how do you get better at events when there's not really a lot of standard form and there's not really a lot. Now, I mean, there's standard form in terms of not getting injured, and there's generally accepted ways to lift implements, but a lot of the implements in strongman compared to other sports are both completely open-ended and deeply personal. So I, man, there was an event at Nationals that was the overhead off blocks,
Hmm.
and just to use that as an example, um, the weight starts on blocks. You pick it up onto your shoulders and you put it overhead.
Hmm.
How? We don't care. It starts on your shoulders, it ends up overhead. You can strict press it, push press it, power jerk it, split jerk it, or what most people ended up doing, which was behind the neck split jerk. It does not matter. And so figuring out your own body mechanics and your own strengths and weaknesses as an athlete is a huge part of the sport, which is one of the things that I think makes it most adaptable. And it's a great sport for adaptability because it enables you to do any other physical activity that you want at a very high level because you're pushing yourself in so many different directions.
For sure. Um, I definitely think that event was very good for you at nationals. Um, what was it
Shout
like
out
a
to Tatum
20?
for the Olympic training.
Yeah. Um, what was it like a 20-pound PR? More?
On comp day was a 15-pound PR, but over the course of I think the 5 or 6 months leading up to that event, through your guys' training, I went from going, what's a split jerk, to then being bad at it, to then being less bad at it, and then being okay at it.
Yeah,
And then I still have a long way to go, but that's the fun thing. You don't have to be, perfect necessarily to do well. You just have to build a good foundation.
exactly. I always view that as you're just adding a tool to the toolbox. It's something that you could have in your back pocket where if you're comfortable enough with it, you could definitely use it at a comp. I know for me, that's my go-to style of lifting, the split jerk. Um, when the weights are light, I'll power jerk until I know I can't anymore. So, like if it's a log for reps, I know I could get probably about 2 or 3 power jerks, and then I just switch to split jerks because I know I could just shut the brain off and go. Um, so definitely adding tools to your toolbox is a fantastic thing where you could just bust it out at any point. But I do remember seeing that event pop up for nationals, the behind the neck press slash jerk, and absolutely my pants of like whole I gotta teach like 4+ athletes how to split jerk in 3 months.
Challenge
like
accepted.
it was sink or swim at that point. As a coach, you look at that and go, okay, we have to do this. There is no in or out because, I mean, in the conversations we had, that was the absolute best method to go about putting big weight over your head. Um, I think, I don't remember who won the event or what style that they did, but it's like you look at pro strongman athletes like Lucas Hatton, Mitch Hooper, those guys are split jerking behind the neck press. They had the same event at the Arnold, and just the power output, you're making the lift so much easier for yourself by just dipping, driving up, and then dropping back underneath the weight. So you're not having to use so much static strength with your shoulders. You could turn it into more of a dynamic leg movement with the split jerk. But again, Tatum can tell you how stressed I was during that time.
Yes, I can. I would simply like to note that this is weightlifting supremacy right here. Everyone's like, the best way to do it was with a split jerk, which is an Olympic lifting movement. You're welcome. You know how to coach athletes through split jerks because you came from Olympic weightlifters. You're welcome.
The
Weightlifting
crazy
supremacy.
thing with Olympic weightlifting is that it's a very technical movement generally. It's something that takes a long time to learn and build the muscle memory for, and a lot of that, coming back to what we were talking about with coaching and kind of that coach athlete connection, a lot of people tend to gravitate towards high profile names when it comes to coaching, and that's a big thing in the sport. A lot of high profile athletes have coaching teams and athletes and that kind of thing. I've always been a huge fan of coach athlete communication. You need that open line of communication. You need to be able to really delve in real time and correct the technique. And a huge part of learning it in the time that I did was being able to, on my end, recognize, okay, here's areas where I realize I'm not doing well enough or I'm having issues, and then being able to communicate that and get a response and get things that I can do to do it better. Both sides of that have to happen in order to have rapid improvement. You have to have no ego and recognize where you're not doing well, and then you also have to communicate that and have a coach that's going to give you feedback. And I think that's massively important to the sport, because without that, your growth is just stifled.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head with the communication standpoint because I know I can't thrive with my coach if we're not communicating. And granted, he is a great communicator. Like he is the first one to tell me that I'm messing up in one of my videos that I send him. He gives me cues, he uplifts me, stuff like that. It's kind of getting into the opposite, because you say high profile names. Typically, a lot of people that are in our kind of area where they're a high level amateur, but they're not ready to turn pro yet, right? They go to pro strongman. Typically, the general norm is that they go to these super heavyweight athletes, right? And I've had conversations with coaches that are super heavyweights that go, don't ever split jerk a log. Why not? Tell me why. And then the answer that I get the most is because it doesn't belong in strongman. And I go, look at this top guy that's beating you, look at this top guy that's beating you, and this top guy that's beating you. Guess what they're doing? They're doing power jerks, split jerks, whatever that you're not doing to be better. And then you're inhibiting your athletes' progress by not being able to teach them. I think as a coach, especially, in Strongman, because it's ever changing. We get different events, we get different lifts, different styles, different techniques, all this stuff versus like Olympic weightlifting. There in Strongman, there's a million ways to do something and get something done. And I think as a coach for this sport, you have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to listen to people about maybe this style isn't the best and you need to go a different route. And then it's up to me to go and learn that. So that way and essentially master it, because then I'd be teaching it to, you and our other athletes. Whereas, powerlifting, there's a lot of ways that you could tweak the lifts, but at the end of the day, in powerlifting and Olympic lifting, you're always going to have a squat. You're always going to have a bench. You're always going to have a deadlift or clean and jerk and snatch. You know,
It's an exceptional level of mastery within a very narrow window.
right? And I think that spectrum is very broadened with just the amount of events that we have. We have these explosive hinging events like stone loading, sandbag toss, all this stuff, and it's I got to be basically a Highland Games athlete, along with a power lifter, along with an Olympic lifter, and I have to have the endurance of a CrossFitter. Just not in a CrossFitter Olympic lifter body because I like food. um, but I think being able to touch on the communication, me being receptive to you going, hey, this isn't working for me.
Right.
What else can we do? This is not helping. Me going, okay, I messed up. We're going to try a different avenue and then we're going to see. And it's kind of like that test retest thing. And I know you've told me when we go on our rants about the sport and all that stuff, you got to water the connection.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, but any any relationship, any level of strength, any level of growth, it all comes from putting in effort. And you have to put in effort to grow that connection with your coach in order to be comfortable communicating with them and having that communication of, hey, something's not working, without it being a failing on your part or a failing on their part. It's just a calibration. And a lot of people get very in their head, both on the athlete and the coach side, to say, oh, if this isn't working, if this part of the program isn't working, it must be either a failing of the athlete or a failing of the coach. And it's not. It's just a calibration to create a better program that works better for everybody and gives you the most effective results. And if something that you thought was going to give you effective results is not, then take that as a learning experience and move on. It's not anybody's failing.
Exactly. And you know me, I'm very realistic with expectations and with you guys and stuff like that. When I bring in a new athlete, I always tell them like, "Hey, I'm not going to be the difference maker of you placing last, placing or placing first in in the first competition we do together. But probably over time you are going to get better. I am confident enough in my ability to make you better. So you might not win right now, but we're going to try to get you good enough to where you can win a year into this, a two years into it, or whenever." And there's a lot of factors that go into that, but it's again my job to learn the athlete, learn how they respond to training, stimulus, load, and all this stuff to then give them essentially the perfect template to make them the best that they can be. So,
Yeah. And then, I mean, the other half of the equation is always going to be the level of drive when it comes to the athlete. And that's not just how heavy are you trying to lift. That's how curious are you to learn the form for all these different lifts? How engaged are you with the sport? And what's your level of effort when you get to the gym? What's your level of effort when it comes to nutrition and sleep and all the other aspects that affect the sport that we don't necessarily talk about? And it's a huge kind of deal when you have someone who's very, very I hate to use the word motivated because motivation comes and goes. The thing you need to be good at the sport long term is discipline, and that comes with any part of it, with the coaching relationship, with the weightlifting, with the nutrition, because discipline doesn't go when you have a bad day. Discipline is consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen. That's something that I've I feel like I talk about a lot with my athletes, especially as they're coming on. I'm like, I love that you are excited and you're like, yeah, let's start off fresh. I'm gonna come in 6 days a week. I'm good for 2.5 hour sessions. Like, I'm ready to just get really good at this. I'm like, awesome. I give it a month. Like, I give it a month until you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you're gonna get sore and you'll be like, okay, this feels good. I'm doing stuff. And then you're going to start adapting. And while you may be getting stronger, we're not going to be maxing you out in the next 4 weeks. So, like, yeah, you'll have like something, but you won't feel like you're getting a lot better because we're working in that like building range of 75 to 80% on things. And you're just like, what is even going on? I don't even want to come in here anymore. Like, I get it. But as someone who's stuck with two competitive lifts for 10, 11 years, the discipline and the habit of coming in is what's going to be the difference between someone who like actually makes it far versus someone who's gonna get like, if that, and then just be like, all right, I'm done with this, I'm not doing it anymore. And it's hard, like, especially being out of the habit now and at a gym where like I don't have a good community just because there's not very many people there, so like most of the time I'm the only person in the entire facility. Like, the discipline that I had and built for years and years and years weightlifting, I have struggled so much. Like, the motivation to go in, it's not just like a, oh yeah, I don't really want to. Yesterday night, I had to go in and lift, and I was like, man, it's like 6 o'clock at night. It is 29 degrees outside and actively snowing. I don't do well in the cold. I'm a Californian through and through, struggling. I'm currently under a heated blanket with sweats and a hoodie on inside of the house. Like, this is not going well for me. Especially post hip surgery, like my hip does not like the cold in the slightest. I spent 35 minutes warming up yesterday. I ended up having one of the best sessions I've had in months. Just like, I went in not because I wanted to, not because I had any motivation to go in. Every part of me just wanted to like crawl in bed and watch an episode of Black Mirror. But I was like, no, you can't do that. Respectfully, you're being a little, get up, go lift. And I did, and it was great. And I think that's what happens. I very few times, and there have been times, but very rarely, that you walk out of the gym and you like regret that you went in.
Yeah, and interesting. I mean, we've talked a lot about how strongman is a fantastic sport, how Olympic lifting is a fantastic sport. My opinion and my belief is that the best sport for you is the one that you can't stop doing. Because if you get into a sport and you realize that you don't like it or it's not the sport for you, and I'm not going to say this is the right sport for everybody. There's a lot of people that would absolutely hate doing this. But if you're not that person, great. And if you find a sport that you like better, great. You know, I have a friend of mine who goes to the gym that I go to, who I found out switched over and primarily does MMA now. And I'm like, dude, great for you. Because that's the thing that keeps him coming and keeps him consistent is he's doing something that he really enjoys versus trying to continue doing something that he doesn't enjoy, which is going to hurt your performance and it's going to hurt your drive. Don't try and force it. Same thing with coaching, you know, don't try and force it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, you can't force a square peg into a round hole. Like, you're either going to vibe with your coach or you're not going to vibe with your coach. Um, it's important to know that you're not the person for everyone. And there's even a point in time where, I feel like you could leave me because if I become stagnant and you stop seeing results and we stop communicating and, finding a good program to put you on, you're going to go look somewhere else to make you better.
You know what? And it's funny you say that because I think as much as we talk about, you know, calibrating and moving forward, a huge part of that is just having and setting achievable goals consistently. And when you achieve them, you move the goalpost. And, you know, someone, I forget, but a lot of people at a lot of points have said the weights don't get easier, they just get heavier. And the the funny thing with that is I think if you're finding stagnation, a lot of that comes from goal setting. Because if you have like what we have, which is a 4 year plus coach athlete relationship that's already achieved incredible results, the only thing stopping that from continuing to happen would be setting the right goals and continuing to have that motivation. And that's one of the reasons why I say you have to love the sport you do, because for all that we talk about all of the fun parts of the sport and the competition and all of that, being a competitive athlete sucks sometimes. Like there's no two ways about it. I remember when I was first training seriously for log, and the muscles in the sides of my arm from stabilizing in a neutral grip overhead were just burnt for like 3 straight weeks. And that's not an injury, that's an adapting. That's getting better at the sport. But that doesn't mean it doesn't suck in the moment. And there's so many moments like that where you have things that suck, and you can choose to look at it as pain or you can choose to look at it as growth. And the
Hmm.
only way you look at it as growth is if you enjoy what you're doing.
Exactly. I think I have a pretty good story about that with my own personal ventures. It was 2024 Nationals out in Greenville, South Carolina. We're in the last event. I'm in the third place position, and they said the podium finishers in the 80 kilo class get a pro card. I was in a position to receive a pro card, something that I have been chasing since I started the sport, and something that I never thought I'd be in the position to achieve. The last event is a sandbag steeplechase. For those that don't know, there's two sandbags lined up at a start line. You have to load over a high post, go underneath it, repick the sandbag, carry it over a lower post. Same thing, go under it, repick it, and then carry it across the finish line. Or I actually think that the last post was the finish line in this case. Um, the weights were 250 and 275. Very manageable sandbags for me. Warming up, I even picked up and threw around a 275-pound bag just so that I get a feel if it was floppy or firm. It's our time for my heat to go, and get the 250 bag over the first post. I run back to grab the 275, and I remember my body just said, "No, we are done. We are not doing this anymore." This was event 6 of 6. One Nationals has always been one of the heavier shows in my kind of calendar year, so my body was being put to the test, and I remember having to stand at that sandbag on the starting line while the guy in the lane next to me was the one that was a point behind me for the last podium spot. And I had to watch him complete whatever he needed to do to beat me and then just stand back and look at me. And in that moment, I chose to learn from it, grow from it, instead of letting it beat me up and tear me down for forever. Obviously, it hurts in the moment, but no one's going to give a in a week about it.
It's fuel.
Um, it's fuel. Yeah. And now I could pick up a 300-pound sandbag like nothing, but hey. um, but yeah, it's those moments where you could either choose to let things drown you, and then that just pulls your love for the sport out, or you could let it make you better, you know?
Almost on the same exact note, the frame at Nationals that we just had. Um, oh my gosh, it was a max distance frame carry. And I'm not going to make this story too long, but it's a simple break. I mean, it was max distance in 60 seconds, and it was a 510-pound frame carry, and it was brutal. I mean, we had people, dropping it mid-run. It was just incredibly brutal because of the weight and the distance and just having to keep going and work the full minute. And I remember getting to right around the end of the run. I had a few seconds left, and it was 30-foot turnarounds, and when I put the frame down at the end of the 30 feet, my legs just said, "Nah, we're not doing this anymore," and I fell into the frame. and I cut up my hands, I cut up my arms on the corners of this wooden frame, and the guy that was judging me was very concerned. And I remember thinking, I've got a few seconds left, and because I made it over the line on that frame carry, I could technically pick it up and go again. So I said, you know what? We're on day two. We're almost done with the comp. I'm just going to give it all the beans and let's see what happens. And I turned around, picked it up, and I carried it, I think, another 10 or 15 feet.
Mhm.
And that 10 or 15 feet in a competition with 24 athletes in my weight class bumped me up 4 places on that event. That's the fun part of it. The next guy that got farther than me beat me by 2 inches.
Yeah.
However far you get, you're gonna see the progress, you're gonna see that progression, you're gonna see that drive, but you're also gonna have that next little bit that you just gotta reach that extra little bit further, and you're gonna get it next time.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like just to kind of have our little banter back and forth. I remember obviously the I was competing at two at nationals. I mean not obviously, but that was my last 80 kilo show, and you are an 80 kilo athlete. I remember you telling me something at the end of day one, and I looked at Tatum and I go, "These are in trouble tomorrow." and it was you. You came up to me and you go, Alex, did you see the standings?" And I go, "No, I was coming off of a rough day one, which again it happens. That's the sport." Um, and I go, "What place are you in?" And you go, "Oh, I'm in 15th." I go, that's awesome. Where's Brian, our other friend athlete that was competing with us, and I think he was in 17th. And I go, "Cool. Where am I?" And then you go, "Oh, I think you're all the way down in 19th." And I was like, "Oh, this guy." Yeah, you're not beating me. You're not beating me on day two. And we ended up tying.
We ended up tying dead even on points, which I think was a fantastic end to the show.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Was I the one that beat you by 2 inches on the frame? Because you
No,
and I got
no,
pretty
you beat me
close.
by a significant amount more than that.
Oh, oh, okay. Okay.
Do you remember how many feet you got on the frame?
I, it was like just over 200, I think.
Yeah, I was at like 174 or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I remember picking up that frame and stood up and I go, "Oh, I can breathe. We're going to go far today."
You see, this is where strongman is a lot different than weightlifting in like a ton of regards. I will say, when I was competing, consistently said that I'm driven by spite. Like someone's like, "Oh, what's your like motivation? What keeps you going?" I'm like, "Spite." Like 100%. My first actual weightlifting comp, because I'd done like unofficial comps before, but my first weightlifting comp, I was beat on the last clean and jerk. I was ahead by 1 kilo, and then I was going against one other girl in my class, and she beat me on the last clean and jerk because her like coach played the game by 1 kilo. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I lost by 1 kilo because I was making more conservative jumps. I lost by 1 kilo and I was so upset. Little 17-year-old say, mind you, I qualified for youth nationals or junior national, whatever it was. I qualified for nationals with my first ever weightlifting meet. I did not care. I walked out of there angry because I was like, I lost by 1 freaking kilo. Are you kidding me? And I was pissed. And that's, mind you, I was lifting on what I found out later was a torn labrum at the time. Like my hip didn't fire properly; it would collapse underneath me. I didn't care. So like I didn't go to Nats that year because I was like, okay, my hip goes numb every time I like go past parallel in a squat or a snatch or a
Totally
clean.
fine.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. At that time, my sister, who I love dearly, was my weightlifting coach. And to say that she was, I mean, we lived separately and didn't really like lift together. She would just like send me a text that had my program for the day, and like that's kind of how it went. But she was free, and I was a minor who didn't really make money. So I was like, that's a good deal for me. So when I told her like, "Hey, I'm having like it hurts a lot," she, being my older sister, who I love dearly, I'm gonna have to edit this. She was just like, "Are you just being a pussy?" Like that was her exact response to 17-year-old Tatum. So I was like, you know what? Probably. Because she's like, you're soft. You're a soft person. I know who you are. I'm your older sister. You're just being soft. And I was like, okay. So I lifted on it for 3 more years before I got it checked out. And I was like, oh, yeah, like full tore through my connective tissue and had like given myself arthritis. But like I thought I was just being soft every time I was in searing pain. And like I'm not one to complain. All of that too, my first after my second hip surgery, and I was like so driven to get back into competing because it was hard. I was like, okay, no, I'm not going out having lost by 1 kilo on the only weightlifting comp, like official weightlifting comp I have ever done. I qualified for nationals and I did not get to go because I was hurt. I'm not doing that. I will get back into this. So I just kept training. I trained through 2 hip reconstructions because when the first one I like went back into it and I was like, hey, this is still not right. Like this is still bad. I found out that I needed another one, which is so fun. I went through the entire process. 6 months after that, I qualified and went to nationals and I got fourth. And then I was like, I came into that, I'm just happy I get to compete at nationals. It's such a fun thing. I can't believe I qualified. Like, this is so great. And then I got fourth and I stormed out of the
Right.
building. I was like, this shit. Like, I was so mad because I'm just happy to have made it, especially like I couldn't walk. I wasn't weight bearing 3 months ago, and now I'm competing at no, that went out the door so fast the second I lost. I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm coming back next year and I'm getting on the freaking podium. And the next year, granted, because there were only 2 of us, I got second across the board. But I was like back and forth with the other girl I was competing with. She had a good amount on me on clean and jerk. I'm significantly worse at clean and jerk than snatches. But we were going back and forth on snatches. And I was like, okay, this was legitimately competitive. I'm not okay with getting silver. So the next year, I went and I got gold on snatch and silver on clean and jerk and silver on the total. And I was once again
Yeah.
so incredibly upset. I was livid leaving Colorado. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I will not lose again. I was cutting down to 45 kilos at that point. So I was not nearly operating at my best as a lifter. I was missing lifts that I hit like completely cold as warm ups, generally speaking. So, like, that was on me. I shouldn't have been cutting down that far. And if I was, I should have been doing it way differently. But that was the year that I like worked with a nutrition coach for my cut. I needed to prove to myself that it wasn't that like I did my cut poorly. It's that I shouldn't be that light. And I ended up working and moving up to 49s. I eventually won nationals at that and I got gold across the board. I still to this day have the medals from my second to last year at nationals in my lifting bag. It is a gold, a silver, and a silver because I kept those in my gym bag every single day to remind myself that I was garbage and needed to do better. It's like every day that I was like, these squats are hard, but you know what's harder? Walking out with a freaking silver medal again. That would kill me. This squat won't kill me. It might hurt. It's gonna suck, but it's not gonna kill me. That would kill me. Like that spite is the most thorough motivator that I have. Like, not to sound like I'm like a terrible narcissistic, but like I feel like that's a really good motivation to have when you can channel it
I
properly.
think that it really paints the kind of contrast between two sides of the coin that are both necessary to have a competitive athlete do well, and that is awareness and drive. Because if you only have drive, you're going to push and keep pushing, even if you're hurt, even if you're not optimal, even if you're not doing your best. But if you don't have the drive, you're never going to push yourself to the same level. So you need a balance between being aware of when you need to take a step back, when you need to work on your training in a different way, when you need to work on a different frame and kind of tweak what the goal is versus pushing through and realizing that this is the path and it is going to suck and you just have to stay the course and that you are doing the right thing. And if you can have the awareness to know when that is the case, and then the motivation to pull through on it or the drive and intent to pull through on it, then you're going to do very well. But you need all of that.
There's some hate behind those words.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, you've watched Shorzy. It's not that I love winning. It's that I hate losing.
Right. And now we could get into kind of mindset and goal setting and stuff like that. Because recently, you know, Tatum, you knew me when I first got into the sport. All I wanted to do was win. Right. I wanted trophies, I wanted titles, I wanted records, all this stuff. Uh, that drastically changed when I got my first taste in the pro division. Granted, still being an amateur, competing with the monsters that are in the pros. And I think that having the all or nothing, I need to win, could actually be detrimental as an athlete. Um, because then that's all you're focused on, right? It's like, instead, I think that this past nationals, I got mid pack. I had the time of my life. I got to hang out with my friends. I got to compete with my athletes. I got to watch them succeed. I got to hang out with my coach. Just got to see friends that I haven't seen in forever. I think that experience is so much better than winning, because now it's like, unless you win a major, you're not going to get your name written down, right? Like if you win nationals or Arnold or OSG, no one cares. People barely care about amateur nationals in Strongman court. Like, just to be honest, they, it's a pathway to get to the next level. It's a pathway to get your pro card. That's all it's meant to be. But, and this is where my coach said it best. He went and won the Arnold this past year. But when you ask him what were the best moments, it was, I got to be in an Airbnb with all my friends. I got to just sit around and hang out with them. I got to coach athletes that it was their first time going to the Arnold. Me. Um, and it's like, it's in those moments where you're going to remember that so much longer than the comp that you won 5 years ago. And let's be honest, if you've only won one competition or done well at one major and you're still bringing it up 5 years later, feel like you're just the kid that never grew up. But, getting fixated on just winning, I think that can lead to burnout in the sport. I mean, look at what happened, not to call you out, Tatum, but um, there was a point in time where you set a goal and you're, again, one of the few that accomplished that goal of winning gold across the board. And then it's like, what's next? You were competing to win and then you won. And again, I did the same thing for so many years, and Jeremiah can attest to this. Anytime I go around him and say the word like, you're going to win, you need to do this, he would basically slap me across the face with his very kind words and be like, no, I have my goals and I just want to beat those goals. Which, as a coach that went from the winning mindset to having to learn that mindset, that was just an eye opener in itself. Because then it's like, I treat him differently than I treat other athletes that want the top spot, want the titles and the trophies and that. But I do think that there's a lesson where we can look at the winning mindset and be like, are you actually winning? Or are you just burying yourself in extra work to try to achieve something that, and again, this is going to be more catered to strongman, where there's so many factors that you are not in control about. Like, I can't control if I'm competing against Jeremiah what he does in his events. I can only do the best that I can do and the best that my training has prepped me for. But it's like if he has a stronger deadlift than me, I've competed against people that have hundreds of pounds on my deadlift. There's just simply nothing I can do. And it's just recognizing that, hey, I'm not there yet. So I'm going to go do what I can and I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to be competitive and do the best that I can. But at the end of the day, it's like I wouldn't trade nationals last year for a win at all. I wouldn't.
There's the awesome split, and a lot of this comes down to me because there's this kind of cognitive dissonance of like, yeah, I want to win, but you also have to be very measured and very reasonable, because if you focus too much on winning, like you say, you get basically sidetracked into overdoing things, and not staying true to your foundation, and not taking the growth at the pace that the growth needs to happen. But then the flip side is also true, that if you don't have the motivation, if you don't have that drive, um, from some source, then you're not going to train at your hardest level. And so you need that drive, in training, of thinking, well, are the other guys slacking off? No, they're all training their hardest, so I have to too. Everybody's training to do their best, and I need to put my best foot forward and train as hard as I can to succeed, but then to give yourself the leeway on comp day of going, I've trained as hard as I can. I've put every little drop of sweat that I can into this. And now, on comp day, is the time when I'm going to be, um, still absolutely giving every ounce of what I have and leaving it all on the field, but being okay with what the results are. Because the results aren't your performance on that day, the results are your performance over the last 6 to 12 months.
Exactly. I think if I were to kind of compare the two, it's drive versus obsession.
Yes.
Being obsessed to win, obsessed to do well, obsessed to be on the top spot versus the drive to put in the work, put in the nutrition, put in the sleep, put in all these other factors that might not be up to par for you as an athlete, but areas where you could put more effort in, and then you're going to see more drastic results than ever. It's like I remember this one time, and I think it might have been you too, where um I was talking to you after a comp and we were kind of like in the dumps. Maybe it wasn't you because you're never down in the dumps after a comp. Um, um, but this athlete of mine didn't have the showing that they wanted, right? Based on overall standings. But they PR'd 3 out of 4 events or something like that. And it's like I asked her, I go, would you buy that ticket and guarantee that result if you could? Because I know I would. If I could walk into comp day after putting all this work and PR event after event after event and just put on a great performance personally, maybe not good enough to be on the top spot of the podium, but know that I have had growth over this block of training or the course of X amount of months. I think that's way worth more than getting a plastic trophy.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the results, or do you enjoy the journey?
I mean, I enjoy the results. I'm
Just as a
also
general
the
question.
I'm also the type of guy where it's like if I could take a pill and be ready to do a comp in 3 months, I would 100% do it. Um, but I know that that's not going to happen. I understand the journey and I accept the journey, but I just want the results in my own lifts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a huge kind of fan of the idea that it's the journey that matters, And the result is just a natural progression of that. And if you enjoy the journey, then the result will be there when it's meant to be there, and it will mean more because of the journey that you took to get there.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I try to instill this mindset of like flipping the lights on and being able to, have a really good max out session for any of you guys. Like you shouldn't need people, you shouldn't need music or anything like that. It's just yourself and the weights, and that's just how it should be. Um so you talk about the journey, and it's like there's going to be a lot more bad days than good days when it comes to training. You know, it's especially more on the Olympic side. There's days where I've seen Tatum lift 40% and it's just garbage. Just it feels like it
Yeah.
moves like it's
Yeah.
not moving like 40%, it's moving like 85% for some weird reason that you just don't know. And it's like I've experienced the same with my log. There's days where I'm just, snappy in my jerk and the clean feels good and I just throw 200 plus pounds over my head. But man, when I miss 185, I am pissed. I am so mad when I miss less than 200 pounds because that just shouldn't happen, but it does at the end of the day. You can't get down on yourself for the bad days. You have to look at the positives. So you can't be obsessed with winning and results and stuff like that. You have to have drive to achieve those results, is
Yeah,
basically what I'm getting at.
Brian Shaw, I remember he put it really, really well. It's the first episode of his podcast that he ever uploaded. Um, was basically a breakdown of his philosophy, and his philosophy, as he's laid it out, is just be great. And that's not just be great in your lifting. That's be great in every aspect. Be great in your sleep. Be great in your food. Be great in your nutrition. Be great, and just focus on all of the things that make you successful as an athlete, and have the drive as an athlete to want to improve in all areas.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. See, he's so positive. Mine goes the other direction. Mine is suck less. Like you guys have heard that since well before I started the apparel line. I mean, Alex has a little thing on his belt because I told him to suck less enough times that he was like, "Yes, thank you."
I
It's
don't have
internalized.
that belt anymore.
You don't have that belt anymore?
No.
Wow, I gotta make patches just for you guys.
Speaking of belts and mindset, I have a belt that I bought a little while back, and shout out to Pioneer, great for embroidering words on belts. Um, my belt on it says Sisyphus, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the man that pushes a rock up a hill for eternity, and I felt that that was fitting. But the deeper meaning for me on that was there was an essay that was written by a very famous philosopher on the myth of Sisyphus, and
I
the
don't mean to
tagline
interrupt
on
you,
that,
but I'm currently reading The Myth of Sisyphus. Like
yes.
I that's my like bedtime reading book right now.
So you understand the deeper meaning there is not just the myth of Sisyphus, but one must imagine Sisyphus happy. And for those who don't know, and it's amazing, um, the idea that if you have um, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. What you're saying is you're taking a guy that was known for being a smart and intelligent guy and tricking everybody, and that's his thing, and you're telling him push a rock up a hill for eternity, and then he turns around and says, "Okay, I'm going to be the best at that now. This is my life now. I'm going to be the best at doing this. This is going to be fulfilling for me. This is going to provide everything I need. I am going to push a rock up a hill and I am going to enjoy it. You can't stop me from enjoying it."
Yeah,
And
the
it's
inability to complete a task doesn't make it a task that's not worth doing.
right.
I have
Keep
no
moving the
idea what we're talking
goalposts.
about.
I
Have you
have,
ever read The Myth of Sisyphus by
No.
Albert Camus?
I'm
You don't
I'm
read a
re
lot of French philosophy.
yeah, that's a huge, hi. That's a huge part, and it's hilarious that you're reading that right now because I've had that on my belt for a long time, and I keep coming back to that as a mindset of like, move the goalposts. It's okay. It's okay to achieve your goals and then move the goalposts and keep working towards a goal that maybe the final iteration of it you'll never achieve, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm reading that book currently because of the post nationals existential crisis that I've been sitting in. Because like I started doing jujitsu, and like it's fun, don't get me wrong, and I enjoy it, but it doesn't do it for me. Jujitsu is like a yeah, this is like good for my health and admittedly good for the aggression, but like it doesn't give me that same sense of like I want to like be really good at this. I'm like, yeah, no, like this is fun. This is a good time, but I'm for sure I'm a hobbyist when it comes to jujitsu. I don't really care about competing. I don't really care about getting like, yeah, I'll get better because I'm putting time in, but like that's it. I'm not like a oh, I want to get my blue belt. Like I'm gonna work and work and work until I get my blue belt. I don't care. So trying to adjust the mindset from like I am a spite based lifter who just cares about winning and I will do anything and everything to control every aspect of my life so I can focus it on that to like, you know what? Let's see what falling in love with the journey actually looks like because I'm not that lifter. I have never been that lifter. Like Alex has watched me have breakdown after like bad lifting sessions because like I'm not. I see that and I'm like this is going to affect my ability to do my best later. Like I'm not doing enough. I must be falling short somewhere. And to some degree that can be helpful. That can be healthy. That can be like okay, is everything lining up? But I just like didn't live for 10 years because I only was focused on will this make me better at lifting? Is my food aligning? And like I almost everything that I ate was just oriented towards that. Is my sleep aligning? So like I wouldn't go and hang out with people, I wouldn't do stuff, any of that because like it could affect it. So I just like nothing. I didn't partake in anything if it did not directly go to helping me be better at weightlifting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom and truth in understanding when is okay to not be optimal, because a lot of athletes get obsessed with that idea of I need to be as perfect as possible all the time. I'm okay having a little bit of alcohol here and there. I'm okay, allowing myself to have a late night or whatever it is. Um, and I try to be okay with that because there's that struggle of like, oh, this isn't perfect for my lifting. This isn't perfect for my training. But then I have the idea that, but it is perfect for my mental health. And if I don't allow myself to enjoy life, then I'm missing out on other aspects that make me a whole and complete person and not just a lifter. Because we all have this identity as lifters. We all consider ourselves to be competitive athletes. That's part of our identity. That's who we are. But it's not the only thing that we are. And I think allowing yourself to have that realization and kind of forgive yourself for not being optimal at some points is something that we have to learn to live with.
Yeah. And I think that's like calling back to identity. I think that is a really big part of it. Like I've done like I worked as a counselor on campus when I was in college and during our like training thing we had to like do our identity work and all of that and like your girl has been through therapy a couple times because Lord knows she needed it. And like we would talk through that. And whenever I would describe myself, they're like, okay, well, like tell me about yourself. And I'm like, well, I compete in Olympic weightlifting. Like first step out of anything is like I compete in Olympic weightlifting. That is so intrinsically who I am that when I was no longer competing in weightlifting, I took a full year off and I told myself I will not actually train. I will not follow a program. I will not do anything because I need to figure out who else I am. Turns out I still don't have an answer to that, so I just returned to weightlifting. Um, but I do think that having that like sense of identity in that can be a really, really positive thing. But when you're past the point of competing, when you're not competing, when there's stuff going on, it can have such a negative effect on just like everything in your life and just a loss of direction
It's
because
an anchor.
everything was in that and now that's not there anymore.
It's an anchor. It pulls you towards it, but once you're past it, it pulls you back. Just that idea of you know enjoying the journey and hobbies and other parts of life outside lifting, and having that idea that if I enjoy starting something, or if I enjoy being bad at something, then it's something that I can enjoy regardless of what the situation is. I mean, I'm a book nerd. I like tea. I like whiskey. I have my job that I'm find a lot of fulfillment in, and those are all parts of who I am too. I'm not just an athlete, and so I have to recognize that and kind of be healthy in all those areas as much as I can. And I'm not perfect. What? No.
I just want to say thank you, Jeremiah, for joining us. It was super fun having a special guest on our episode. I really appreciated hearing your insights. I know that Alex did too, and I hope that our listeners and viewers will enjoy that as well. That's going to be the end of our episode today. Again, we come out every Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us. We're on socials, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, and then you can view our stuff. We're available on Spotify and on YouTube to
What's
watch
the
and or
tag?
listen. Hmm?
What's the tag? Where do we follow you?
It's at Between Two Barbells PC for podcast. So follow us, watch us, like and subscribe. This is when the little thingy comes up on screen and it's like and subscribe. You can watch our old videos too. Jeremiah's not in them, sorry. But we'll
So
probably have you back on at some point and just keep yapping because that's what we like to do.
I'm around. I like to yap.
Honestly, me too, obviously.
Awesome. It's been
All
a
right, thank
pleasure.
you for coming on.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.